Next up, we have Thank You for Smoking, which is a really underrated film. Basically, it's a satire on the tobacco industry. You know how tobacco companies are always pushing for people to smoke. This film does a really great job. It's actually a lot darker than it sounds. Aaron Eckhart, who else is in here? Robert Duvall. That one guy, I'm blanking on his name right now. J.K. Simmons, Rob Lowe. Yeah, this is a really good, underrated dark comedy. Really good on that one. Next up, we have That's Entertainment. In 1974, MGM was celebrating its 50th anniversary, and to commemorate, they decided to make a documentary about their MGM musicals. They assembled everybody that they could get, including Fred Astaire, Gene Kelly, Bing Crosby, Peter Wofford, Liza Minnelli, Don O'Connor, Debbie Reynolds, Mickey Rooney, Frank Sinatra, James Stewart, Elizabeth Taylor. They assembled all of them, and they filmed it on the actual MGM backlot, where a lot of those musicals were filmed. And actually, those original sets were still there at the time that they were shooting this. And unfortunately, after they filmed this, those sets were torn down. I grew up on these films. I grew up on these musical documentaries. I don't even consider them documentaries. I consider them like actual musicals. A celebration of the MGM musicals with great narration by the actual people who were there, as well as some really great moments in film history. Love it so much. That's Entertainment Part 2, dropping the whole, multi-star thing and only having Gene Kelly and Fred Astaire, who they only teamed together one other time. This one has more comedic sequences, so you have some more scenes from the Marx Brothers. You also have a couple moments from Spencer Tracy and Katharine Hepburn, but you also have your musical bits too. And it's kind of nice to see the two of them just, hosting the film and stuff, and so it's actually kind of really cool. There's a couple of Jimmy Durante stuff, as well as a really nice ending song. Really, really cool. And then finally, That's Entertainment 3. Once again, doing the same thing as the first one, reuniting all these well-known stars. Not only recasting, not only is Gene Kelly, Mickey Rooney, and Debbie Reynolds reappearing in the film, but they also got June Allison, Sid Charisse, Rena Horn, Howard Keel, Ann Miller, and Esther Williams. And unlike the first two films, this one actually has musical sequences that were basically cut from their original films and were never seen till now. For example, in Wizard of Oz, there's the, If I Only Had a Brain, but what a lot of people don't know is that scene was actually longer, and they trimmed it for timing reasons, and you can see it here. Although it's on the bonus features on the home video releases, so it's not really much of a surprise. But anyway, there's a sequence in Singing in the Rain that was cut involving Debbie Reynolds, and to see these sequences are really cool. Also, there's one scene in the first one where they show, I think it's like an Ann Miller movie, dancing on a stage, and she's like dancing on a stage, and the camera moves, very gracefully. Well, in here, you can actually see how it was done. So, yeah, I grew up on these films. When I was around 15, my mom introduced me to BMGM musicals, and, Rodgers and Hammerstein and Werner and Lowe, and 3 of those films were the Bats Entertainment trilogy. Oh, and speaking of which, I can now actually show you this. This was the bonus disc from the box set, Bats Entertainment Treasures from the Vault. So basically, this is a compilation of additional documentaries, shown around the time that these films came out. So we have the 25th anniversary newsreel, the 1974 documentary Just One More Time, the 1975 Ryan Wars Again, a Mike Douglas show excerpt, Bats Entertainment 50 Years of MGM. You also have Bats Entertainment Free, Behind the Screen, and The Masters Behind the Musicals. These are fantastic documentaries, every single one of them. And on the other side of the disc is more musical numbers that were not in any of the films. So this is a fantastic trilogy. I grew up on these. I'm very sentimental. And on a similar note, there's no business like show business. It's funny. Last year, or less than a year ago, I was actually sick with some kind of illness, and I needed to get back on stage right away because I was doing a community theater production, and I listened to the song from this movie, There's No Business Like Show Business. So that song actually helped me get back on stage that Friday. Anyway, Irving Berlin with Ethel Merman, Marilyn Monroe, and Donald O'Connor. Yeah, Marilyn Monroe hardly does anything in this movie, from what I remember. But again, it's been a while since I've seen that. The finale's great, though. Thelma and Louise. Oh, I need to pick up a Criterion of this one. One of the first feminist films, or one of the first female empowerment films. I want to get it right. Susan Sarandon and Gina Davis, they become accidental outlaws. And yeah, I understand people know this film because of the ending. And I don't really think that's fair because you're missing a big part of a movie. If all you know of this movie is the ending, then you don't really understand this movie at all. There's a lot more to it than that. But anyway, the chemistry between the two of them is great. The direction by Ridley Scott's good. The casting's good. The writing on this is on point. Yeah, this is really great. Check it out. There's Something About Mary. To be totally honest with you, I'm not really the biggest nut of this one. I think it's fine. I think it's a fine movie. Cameron Diaz does a good job. Ben Stiller's in here as well. It's fine. It's a fine movie. It's just not my thing. It's not a bad movie. I don't think that movie's hilarious, but it's alright. If I can get this out of here. The Theory of Everything. This is an excellent film about Stephen Hawking. Eddie Redmayne's Oscar-winning turn, also with Felicity Jones. This is a film that really helps you understand who Stephen Hawking is, his accomplishments at the university. I'm blanking on what university it was. Cambridge University. His diagnosis with ALS, his daily struggles, and his first wife who supported him. And you actually see, the realities of what he went through every day, and that's just a really great little film right there. They Were Expendable with Baduke, Robert Montgomery, and Donna Reed. Is this John Ford? Yeah, it's John Ford. Okay. Wanted to make sure. This is Elvis. This is an excellent documentary about Elvis. I remember watching this many, many, many times as a kid. Just a really great film that actually shows, and actually the film actually starts in 1977, and then it goes back to 1948, I believe, when he was growing up when he was living in Tupelo, Mississippi, and, through recreations and stock footage and narration, you actually see, Elvis's career. And actually, this is a really good film to watch, kind of get introduced to him in a way, a little bit. I recommend you check out the The 2-disc DVD also has the expanded video edition, which I actually recommend you check that out as opposed to the theatrical cut, because it's longer, so it has like more stuff in it. Although the video quality varies. This Means War, a love triangle set in the CIA. Yeah, I don't know about that one. The thrill of it all, I talked about this in my Carl Reiner tribute, but this is just so funny. With Doris Day and James Gardner, sort of a satire on marriage and the advertising industry. It's just funny. It's just funny. And then up next, we have 13 Days, about the Cuban Missile Crisis, told by the Special Assistant to the President, Kenneth P. O'Donnell. This is a decent movie. Yeah, I think as far as dramas about the Cuban Missile Crisis, this is the best you're gonna get. So, that's worth checking out, I suppose. Thomas and the Magic Railroad. Oh, yes. Oh, my God. This film, okay. I grew up with this. I actually remember watching this in the theater. Thomas the Tank Engine was my life as a kid. I mean, I collected all the trains and the toys and everything associated with Thomas and Friends, Thomas the Tank Engine. Every single thing associated with Thomas. I still have those somewhere. But anyway, yeah, Thomas and the Magic Railroad. I literally begged my mom to take me to see this. Remember, this is 2000, so I was probably 7 or 8 around that time. And I ended up walking away feeling really disappointed because, honestly, I don't remember why. It's been so long since I've seen this. Alec Baldwin is in here. He would eventually become a narrator for Thomas the Tank Engine for a while. Also with Peter Fonda and Mara Wilson. Yeah, I do want to get the Shout Factory release because the Shout Factory release has the rare alternate cut of this movie. I believe it's for work print. And the work print is actually slightly different. Anybody knows the history of that movie knows, but there was originally supposed to be a character named P.T. Boomer. And he was cut from the movie. So, yeah, I do want to pick that up down the road. Up next, we have The Three Stooges. This is Volume 1, 1934 to 1936. So these sets by Columbia are actually... these sets by Sony. These are really great because they're all in order, chronological, digitally restored, and so it actually starts the first one called Women Haters, which that one is told entirely in rhyme. And the one I actually remember is this one called Whoops, I'm an Indian. I also remember Punch Drunks, which was awesome. An awesome short from 1934. Yeah, I really need to get more of these. I think, if I remember correctly, I believe these were on Blu-ray. These are on Blu-ray now, I think. I could be wrong about that. Yeah, they were. They were issued on Blu-ray. Okay. There was like this mammoth box set that was released a couple of years ago. And at first I thought, okay, well, it's just their movies. But no, it's everything. So, for the time being, I do not have a complete set of the Three Stooges. Which really sucks, because I actually kind of like them. Thoroughly Modern Millie, based on the Broadway musical, Julie Andrews, Mary Tyler Moore, and an insane Carol Channing. I mean, she is just on fire in this one. The use of color in this movie is really good. And I love that scene where, I think it's either Mary Tyler Moore or Julie Andrews. They're dancing in the elevator. That was a really cool shot. Thunderball, that's James Bond, the Connery era. Again, my Bond collection is a mess, but Yeah, I think this is the underwater one. I think this is the underwater one, but I didn't see that one. I would love to tell you what I thought of Tigerland with Colin Farrell. Unfortunately, my copy does not work. I could only get through like 15 minutes before it goes dead, basically, so I don't know anything about this movie. But I probably won't be a big fan of it because it's Joel Schumacher, and I'm not really a big fan of his work. There Will Be Blood. Daniel Day-Lewis commands the screen, winning his second Oscar. This is easily my favorite Paul Thomas Anderson film. Easily. It is my personal favorite. It is one that I connect to the most. It is the one that I appreciate the most. It has the best acting. It has the best writing. It has the best cinematography. In fact, it won an Oscar for that. It just has everything I could possibly need out of a Paul Thomas Anderson film. Despite the title, the film is actually about oil barons and oil tycoons. But Daniel Day-Lewis, oh my god. Here's the thing. Daniel Day-Lewis is such a despicable character, but at the same time, you understand him. You know, at the same time, you understand him and where he comes from. You understand who he is, why he is the way he is. It's mainly about a guy who, like, loses his soul over the course of the film. There's just, it's so much to it. I can go on forever, but no, please check this out. This movie is character-driven, and it works beautifully. Love it. Next up, we have The 10. The 10 is actually a satire on the Ten Commandments, and I'm not really a big fan of it. I mean, it's okay. This was put out by City Lights, yeah. And a lot of the skits in here don't really make much sense. Like, there's this one skit involving these two neighbors who, I'm going off in memory here, these two neighbors who try to see how many CAT scans they can have in their house. Another one involves some dude who, like, fell out of a plane without a parachute and then landed in the ground, just stuck there. And then they try to exploit it. Another one involves this puppet of sorts. There's another skit involving, you know, this drug that makes everybody horny. I don't recommend that movie. It's not very good. It's not, like, the skits aren't bad, but there's no coherency. You know, like, it's okay, but you know, there are better satires and comedies out there. There are way better ones, so I don't recommend it, but I mean, you're not harming yourself by watching it, but I mean, it's watchable, but next we got both versions of The Thing from Another World, directed by Howard Hawks in 1952. Was it 52? 51. Okay, I was close. Yeah, you can tell that John Carpenter was obviously inspired by this film because he featured it in Halloween and would later on remake it. And unfortunately, it's one of those situations where the remake overshadows the original, but never underestimate the original. The original has staying power. It's really great because, you know, it's one of the best sci-fi monster films of all time. And even though it doesn't look like much on the surface, there's actually a lot more to this film than you may think. Especially, I don't want to give much away, but the ending line is fantastic. Everyone, keep watching the skies. I love it. And of course, here's The Thing that you all know from 1982. Of course, the John Carpenter classic. Now, this is a great film and all. You know, actually, this improved on a lot of the qualities of the original movie. But one thing is actually set in the North Pole instead of the South Pole, just like in the book. Also, it has fantastic practical effects. I mean, just off the charts, fantastic practical effects. The story's fantastic. The pacing of the film is great. Kurt Russell was great in the film, and overall, it's also just really scary too. It's a really scary, intense film. So yeah, check this out. The Time Traveler's Wife. I heard somewhere where if you don't read the book, if you never read the book and you watch this film, it'll be really hard to understand. But I didn't feel the same way about this one. I really didn't. I understood everything just fine. Of Eric Bana and Rachel McAdams. Anyway, but Tingler, an amazing Vincent Price film from 1958. Just absolutely amazing. This movie is essentially William Castle's take on fear itself. William Castle, he obviously wanted to make a film about fear itself. What triggers it, why people, get excited when they see a good horror movie, not a bad one. And he sort of used this analogy of a scientist who was like studying the feeling of the tingling sensation in the back of your spine. And yep, I don't want to give too much away, but there's like one great scene after another, and it all builds to there's this one scene that takes place in a movie theater. And what William Castle did, he created this thing called blanking on it now. What did he do? It was called Percepto. Yeah, Percepto. Where all he did was basically he just put vibrators in the seats, and it's especially apparent. Like the one scene that really shines in this movie takes place at a movie theater. I don't want to give too much away, but watch it with the lights turned off. I guarantee you it'll creep the hell out of you. I don't want to give it away. Titanic. This is the 1953 version with Krypton Webb and Barbara Stanwyck. Not the most historically accurate movie, but I remember watching this when I was a kid. I remember watching this, I had like a VHS of it. I remember watching it late at night, and this was the only Titanic movie I saw all the way through until, I actually gave the James Cameron one another shot. Anyway, but one thing I remember about this film is not really everything, before it, but like at the very end. Of course, I obviously know that it didn't happen. I mean, I learned a lot about the Titanic since then. And of course, people probably wouldn't look at this film today, but honestly, it's okay. It's an okay Titanic movie, but then again, I haven't seen it since I was a kid, so. And then, of course, the James Cameron Titanic, which we all know this. I really need to upgrade my copy, I swear to God. 11 Oscar winner, including Best Picture and Best Director. This film really took the film landscape by storm, and it actually really made people interested in the Titanic again. I swear it was like Titanic mania for both good and bad reasons. Leonardo DiCaprio, Kate Winslet, Kathy Bates. Yeah, I remember watching this. I actually saw this in theaters for its anniversary. If you watch this film in a theater, not on your TV at home, but if you watch this movie in a theater, the entire sinking sequence is actually way more terrifying than you may actually think. This was clearly meant to be seen on a very large screen, just like most epics, believe it or not. And actually, I know there are people who don't like the romantic angle of this movie. I understand that. But here's the thing. Even though Leonardo DiCaprio and Kate Winslet are fictional, they interact with the real-life people. So, Captain Smith, Thomas Andrews, Molly Brown, the historical figures. They interact with them, and by the time the sinking happens, you actually get to know who they are. You actually get to know who they were, what their roles were, and so forth. So in a way, their presence actually helps the movie. I guess you could say I guess you could say I really liked it more than I did when I was a kid. I mean, when I was a kid, I watched the second VHS tape and not the first, but I missed out, and I'm glad I've seen it like, I don't know, maybe 4 times. And lastly for this section, the Ten Commandments. One of the all-time greats. One of the all-time best epics of all time. Just a huge ensemble cast. Mainly Charlton Heston and Yul Brynner as Moses and Ramses. The effects in here are incredible. Hold up amazingly well. The cast, huge cast. Charlton Heston, Yul Brynner, Edward G. Robinson, Deborah Paget, Ann Baxter, Vincent Price, John Carradine, directed by Cecil B. DeMille. Really knew what he was doing. He took his 1920, I believe his 1925 film, and he made an absolute spectacle out of it. Just huge sets, large cast, an epic story, fantastic visual effects. Yeah, one of the best epics of all time. I could go on forever, but yeah, this is better than like, a lot of. I mean, it's funny. This movie came out the same decade as Ben-Hur, which would come out in '59. It's hard to say which one is better of the two. I'd say the Ten Commandments they're almost like equal to me, as far as goes on the scale of epicness and just a masterwork. And the Party in the Red Sea sequence, spot on. Adore it. Love it. One of the greatest of all time.